My wrist is super cold. Rings on my fingers like I'm in the Super Bowl. Mansion in the hills, told you that's the game code. Cozy in the Benz, but I want the Range Rover just like Troy's. I ain't got a boss, low, I'm self-employed. Shout out Brandon Dean and Janae, they my boys. And Ty and TK got the sauce, leave your girl moist. Sonny got the money, we gon' spend it on some toys. That's just how it goes. Ice dripping off me like an Eskimo. Been a young boss since I was an embryo. This the life we live, this the path I chose. Yeah, my wrist froze, my neck froze. Alaska, Alaska, yeah. My wrist froze, my neck froze. Alaska, Alaska. My wrist, my neck froze. Alaska, Alaska, yeah. My wrist froze, my neck froze. Alaska, Alaska. Thumbing in, all the racks keep coming in. When it's gone, let the summer in. But I'm still cold, can you comprehend? I got money like Bezos, I got shares in the government.
Hey you guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's Siobhan again. I hope you are all doing okay, staying safe and pushing through this time. I haven't posted in 2 weeks. I don't know why. I'm not even gonna sit here and think of an excuse because I literally don't have one. But I decided to do this video today because I got a question from a little girl, I think a week ago. And she asked me, like, what was it like growing up as a black girl in a predominantly white area? So I thought, like, this is actually a pretty interesting conversation. Like, it was a pretty interesting conversation in my head, so I was like, I might as well just bring it to YouTube and talk about it. I will begin and say I grew up in a really loving home. Like, my parents taught us people are people and you love people for who they are, not what they look like, their ethnicity, race, color. So as kids, like me and my brothers, we didn't see like people as, oh, they're black and they're white. It was kind of just like, okay, that's just a person, you know? So that's how we were raised. Like, our parents did tell us, like, okay, you guys are black children and people might say things to you, but you shouldn't take that in any way and, you know, think you're any different from any of the other kids, or you should be treated different from any of the other kids. Because I feel like this whole racism thing and being black and white or being, you know, foreign, this is something of the past, you know? Like, right now, we're all supposed to be equal. Like, in the past days, yeah, I get it. People were slaves and whatnot. So it's sad that it's still alive. Racism is still alive and people do still get discriminated. I'm gonna give kind of like a timeline from when I was a child to now and kind of what my experience has been, because I guess that's the only thing I can talk about. People will have different experiences and tell you a lot differently. So I'll start off from when I was like a little kid, like when I started playing outside with all the other little children. I'm happy to say that I never ever experienced racism at that age. You know, I feel like kids don't understand these things, or they don't see these things. You know, every child will literally play together. Even if you're purple, like a kid will play with whoever. They're so like, we're so pure at that age. Obviously the conversation might come up like, oh, you're black and you're white. Like, oh, we got, like, we're two different colors. But then you kind of just keep playing and it's nothing. So like, you don't really understand this whole racism thing until you kind of get into like school. So I went to a pretty multicultural school. Kind of the school that kind of has a bit of everyone, you could say. All races and all colors, which was really good because we all played together. It was fine. Then secondary school, not so much. Secondary school, I was 1 out of 3 black girls in my year. I think for pretty much all 5 years of school I was. Yeah, I mean, there wasn't many black people. Again, like, I didn't experience that racism side of things. In secondary school, like first, second year, I was kind of a bit of a nuisance. Like, me and my friend, we kind of be like troublemakers, and we would get the same treatment. Like, it would never be like, oh, I'm gonna be a bit harsher on Siobhan because she's black. So again, I'll say like secondary school and primary school, I didn't experience any racism like in the schools themselves. when I started to like think to myself like, oh, I am black, like I'm a black girl, was probably around the time of like 14 to 16, when everyone's kind of starting to like each other and have like them childhood relationships. That's when I kind of realized like, oh, I am a black girl, I think. Yeah. So I think the reason why was because I wouldn't say the guys that we grew up around were racist, but I did, like, most of my friends were white growing up. I was one of the only black girls, but I think it was more of a preference thing. Like, oh, the white guys kind of go for the white girls and the black guys kind of go for the black girls. Like, I did have like my childhood things with black boys at the beginning, and I feel like that was just kind of a preference thing. Like, we're all sticking to our own people in a way, which kind of, it was annoying, because say we'd go to parties and I'd notice like all my friends are getting like all the attention, and I'd just kind of be there, and I'd start to think like, oh, maybe I'm not pretty enough. But then I would take it back to like, oh, you're black, like that's the reason why. I mean, it's not a nice feeling as a girl, like growing up, and like we were all pretty girls in my group. The thing is, me and my friend, one of my best friends, at the time, we were kind of a bit popular. So we kind of knew a lot of people from like different counties. It was the time when Facebook was the shit. So like me and Leah, we'd get like 1K likes on our pictures, and like you can only imagine like getting 1,000 likes. Like, it was such a big thing at that age. But I was kind of shocked. Like, I'd look at Leah and I'd be like, why am I getting the same likes as you? I'm not supposed to be getting that, I'm black. And in a way, I'd kind of be annoyed at myself that I said that, but realistically, like, that was just how it was. So for me, it was a little bit different in that sense, because like I was quite popular, you could say, because I would get like male attention from guys, and they were also white guys. So to me, it was like, oh my god, like they actually like me now. And I think it was kind of a case of like me and her being popular, not because of who I was. And I feel like that's really sad, because I was a little girl, and you know. Anyway, so when I was 13, I did have like my first relationship, like childhood relationship. I'll call him my friend boy. We didn't notice anything. I knew I was black and he knew he was white, but it didn't change anything. The only time we really did notice was when other people would say it. Like, other people would say, oh, you're with that black girl. Like, instead of saying you're with that girl, you're with that black girl. That's when it was kind of like I'm just a girl. Okay, so then again, 3 years later, I did have another friend boy who was white, and that was an interracial like relationship, but we didn't notice. But for some reason, everyone else seemed to notice that we were like different. Like, it was like, oh, she's black and he's white. Like, are you with that black girl? What really used to get me would be like, why can't you lot just call me a girl? You know, why do you have to emphasize the black? That really would put me down, because it was as if being black was any less than being white, you know? And that's not how my parents raised me. Like, that's not what they taught us. Like, so I think it is important to like teach your kids, like, yes, there's a difference in color, but it doesn't mean anything, because otherwise you just come to like harmful, inaccurate conclusions, and that just doesn't benefit anyone. Because it used to happen to me, and I used to be like, oh, I am black though, so I can't do that, and that's not a nice feeling. So let's talk about 17. That was kind of when I started Instagram, and I didn't really feel like I was being targeted as being a black girl, because like my following was basically all races, not even just black and white. Like, it was literally all races. So that was fine, until I started getting some comments. Like, this is when, you know, I had kind of like entered the 20K, like when a lot of people are on my page, and you know, a lot of people have comments. Like, the thing about social media is people need to go into doing social media knowing like I cannot control what anybody says, and people are obviously going to be hurtful and problematic. So it's just something you have to know, like, going into social media, like, this is what I'm putting myself into, and you cannot control what people say. But it was kind of comments like black something. Like, say if you were just going to call me, like, say for example, someone called me a bitch, like instead of just saying, oh, you're a bitch, it would be like, you're a black bitch. And I talked about this before, like that whole black before, that's what I didn't understand. It was like, you could have just called me a bitch and it would have, you know, it would have been the same thing. But like, why do you have to emphasize the black? Like, being black is just stating a fact. Like, you are telling me I'm black. Yes, I know I'm black. I have a mirror. I know I'm black. Like, it's just like saying white bitch. Like, you never go over to a girl and you say you're a white bitch. So why do you have to say you're a black bitch? Because you're just stating a fact. And that's pretty hurtful, because it's like you're trying to emphasize that being black is any lower than anything else. Another thing is, a few days ago, I was going through my requests, and you know, like, oh my god, if I show you, the music comes off. But on your like messages, you see the first bit, and then the second bit will be usually underneath because the message is too long. So I seen a message, and it was like, you're absolutely beautiful, and I was like, oh, okay, a nice compliment, let me reply, like, thank you or something. Just because, like, you know, it's nice to get a compliment, but like also if you give a compliment, you want to be thanked back. So I was like, I'm going to reply and I'm going to say thank you from this guy. And then I went into the message. This guy said, for a black girl. When you say you're pretty for a black girl, it's not a compliment. Like, if your goal is to compliment me, that's not a compliment. You're pretty for a black girl. In fact, it's actually pretty racist and it's hurtful. It's like you're trying to demean black girls. Like, why can't you just say I'm pretty for a girl? Like, you know, I don't understand it. Why do you have to emphasize for a black girl? Like, are black girls not pretty? Like, what's that about? Guys, I'm just saying, if you're one of those people that say for a black girl, or you're pretty for your people, or things like that, don't say it, because it's not a compliment. And in fact, it's an immediate deal breaker. Like, I literally seen that message and the guy was kind of like trying to talk to me, and underneath, like, the next message, it was like, how are you? And I was like, no, I'm not replying that. I literally just immediately just deleted it. So if it was you that sent that, I'm sorry if I haven't replied. I mean, I have been traveling for some time now, and I would have experienced racism, like, at work. Like, say if someone gets like a little bit angry at what I say or the way what I deal with a specific problem, it's like, oh, like, that black girl done this. That kind of annoys me. But then again, for me, like, when someone is racist, like, they lack understanding and they're very ignorant. And they're probably like two of the worst characteristics a person can have. So in that regard, I'm kind of like more laid back. I'm more like, I don't freak out, or I don't like lose it when someone's like racist to me. I kind of just like, I'm kind of just like, okay, like, that's a problem within them than me. But anyway, I will have like a part 2 on this like conversation with somebody who has had the same or like a similar experience as me, growing up in Ireland. But yeah, I will say I didn't have a bad experience with it. I'd say, like, if I were like a boy, it could have been worse. Like, my brothers, they'll probably tell you different, because, you know, it's easier to offend a guy in a racist manner than a girl. Like, people are more sensitive towards girls, so that could have been another thing. But definitely, it's still alive. It needs to go. We're all equal. We are all one. But anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.
All the racks keep coming in. When it's gone, let the summer in. But I'm still cold, can you comprehend? I got money like Bezos. I got shares in the government.